for some Bengals news. At the Growler, we got you. Hot takes, interviews from your host, Paul Day Jr.
All right, welcome into it's technically like day one, but it's really day two of Who Dey Nights. Paul Dehner Jr. here with you on the Growler, myself, Mark Shalafu, Charlie Goldsmith, Jay Morrison. You know what? It's been a long day. A lot has happened. It's one of those where you say, where do we begin? I don't really know where totally to begin because a lot has gone down. How's everybody doing? Is everybody doing all right? Charlie, are you okay? Are you ready to talk run defense?
I had a great day. Full of refreshing Twitter, full of checking up on the news. I had some orange chicken for dinner and some peanut butter pretzels. I'm rolling along full speed.
Peanut butter pretzels, huh?
With orange chicken. Let's restart this show and come up with a better dinner. This is terrible. Let's restart this whole thing. Oof. First take, and it's a bad one. This is why we do it live. Everyone rehearse your dinner takes for tomorrow. We got to be better.
This is it's free agency. You go no dinner. That's the true warriors are like, I didn't eat. Okay. I just ate takes. That's all I did. That's what you need to do.
Film.
Eat that film. That's right. We've got a lot of things that we are going to be touching on here, but let's kind of just quickly recap where we've been today. Okay. For those of you that are lucky enough not to have had to try to follow this, or maybe those of you that rely on Twitter and said, you know what? Not my day. Just not going to follow the news today. How great was it to have that one little moment in time where we had no Twitter? And it was like, imagine what our lives could be, what it could have been. But then it came back and it was back into our lives again. Let's recap though, for those that the uninitiated on what the Bengals have done today. They introduced Mike Gesicki. So we had a press conference with him today. While we were in that press conference, they re-signed BJ Hill on a 3-year, $33 million deal. After that, they signed Green Bay interior defensive lineman, big old 330-pound nose tackle, TJ Slayton. So he enters the equation there. We have, where else do we got? We have Joseph Osai shows up he signed right before we came on here tonight. He is back. 1 year, $7 million. A deal is done with David Mulgeta. Finally. It happened. He's not so bad. When you're only dealing with 1 year, it's not so bad. It's all guaranteed. Right? So not too bad there. Oren Burks, linebacker from the Eagles, joins on a 2-year, $5 million deal. He essentially takes the place of Akeem Davis-Gaither, who signed for 2 years and $11 million in Arizona. Samaje Perine is back.
Finally again.
Did not get the reported 3 years, $22 million.
No, that was stunning.
That was the highlight of the day.
Everyone is like, wait. What just happened to Samaje Perine's career? Good for him. Turns out that is not the deal. Much lower deal. What 2 years, 5? Is that what ended up? I didn't write that one down.
That, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. For Samaje Perine. Jay, I'll start with you. Of all the moves, and sorry if I skipped over something there. Of all the moves,
I think you got him.
Yep. What stands out to you most?
I think the Slayton one, just because. Actually, maybe the move that stands out the most is the one they didn't make, because I'm kind of stunned they have not signed a guard yet. But if we're going with the ones that they have made, I would say Slayton. It's just something that this team they've just struggled against the run for years. And I have a story up where I went back, and it's been since 2001 since they've been in the top 10 in run success, defensive run success percentage. Even in the DJ Reader era, they weren't that good. And a lot of that was because DJ was hurt. You bring in a guy like Slayton, he's the typical Bengals signing. He's young, he's on the rise, he's got experience. He's not that expensive. It feels like a really good fit, and he's durable. He's played all 64 games of his career. He started all 34 the last 2 years, and he pairs back up with Jerry Montgomery, the new Bengals defensive line coach, who was his defensive line coach in Green Bay for 3 years. It makes a lot of sense. I know we spent a lot of time talking about Levi from Detroit, but this one, that's more of a pass rushing move. This is a run stopping move, and they got burned last year. They didn't get a run stopper in free agency, and they got stuck, and they had to reach for McKinley Jackson in the 3rd round, and he might end up being a fine player for the team, but that was a reach. They probably would have got him in the 4th round had they gotten someone in free agency. And I wouldn't sleep on BJ Hill either. He was the number 10 run defender among defensive tackles by PFF last year, and you pair those two together in the middle with McKinley Jackson, with Chris Jenkins, and now you say, okay, that room looks pretty solid. And you go out and you get maybe one more stud 3-tech in the draft, and then you feel really good about that room, which is the complete opposite of what it felt like going into the draft last year.
Yeah, to me today felt like the other side of the ball's version of the way 2022 free agency opened. And it wasn't right away this time like it was when the Bengals in 22 signed Kappa and Karras and then got the flexibility to add a tackle too, and a couple of days later. But the Bengals entered last year's draft desperate for 2 defensive tackles, specifically in premium rounds, and they got them in Chris Jenkins and McKinley Jackson, and the books in their careers are yet to be written. But that plan backfired, and there were so many moments last season, even like I remember Tennessee early in that game, just shoving the ball right down the middle, and the Bengals didn't have much resistance for it. The Bengals are throwing all their chips in the table of this isn't going to happen again, and now it's coming at the expense of their pass rush. And what I expected was the Bengals to try to platoon up this defensive line room. Can they get one guy who's great rushing the passer, one guy who's great as a run stopper, maybe get one veteran to soak up some snaps around that? But instead they got BJ Hill, who I saw primarily as a run stopper who can be a part of your 3rd down rotations. And then I get him, and I'm like, all right, the Bengals are now going to complement that with a pass rusher, even though BJ's not a nose. Jenkins and Jackson offer you something against the run. But no, then they sign a 330-pound nose tackle. It was a clear direction. It's now a room with BJ Hill's pressures. We could talk more about that. I won't dive into that now. But it's a room now that's counting on the edges for its pass rush because its run defense, it's saying, even though BJ Hill and TJ Slayton aren't DJ Reader, they're not great run stoppers. They're throwing the ball in the court of can get in some solid, nice plus run stoppers, be enough to make this run defense more consistent.
I mean, I look at it and I think I tweeted this out. I have a story because, my takeaway was, okay, you're stopping the run. And Duke Tobin said to us at the combine, look, the reason that I feel like a big part of the reason we weren't good rushing the passer last year is that we didn't have many opportunities to do so because it was always, if it was 3rd down, it was 3rd and short. They didn't get them into enough true pass rushing opportunities because they just got moved at the point of attack too often. They were 31st in the NFL last year in defensive rushing success rate, and that was just teams staying on track, never having to be sitting in really 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11 until late in the year. And then you saw them perform better defensively and see a little bit more pass rush. Joseph Osai starts getting some sacks. Henderson starts to eat. But now he's buying into that because you have pass rush. Here's pass rush win rate on your 4 current interior defenders. Hill 52nd, Jackson 106. This is out of 126. 52nd, 106, Slayton 82nd, Jenkins 115th. Okay, you don't have a single notable pass rusher here. Now, you're right. If you draft somebody and you throw them into this mix, you feel better, but that feels like a lot of pressure on one draft pick. And you've got to find him, you got to get him, and you got to get it right. And that guy then has to stay healthy and play and all of that. It feels like a lot, and it puts a lot of pressure on your edges to play better. And we don't know that those guys are going to be able to do it either. Okay. You're talking about Miles Murphy and Osai, who's back now. And is he going to be able to do it? Hendrickson, is he going to be here? Is he going to be angry? Is he going to be sitting out? All of that stuff is just kind of sitting out there. I come away a little concerned. It's a big bet on the fact that your rush defense is going to give you more opportunities to rush the passer. It feels like a big bet. You'd like to see a little bit more in the way of pass rush juice beyond, hey, we'll get that in the draft. And maybe they hit there. but, asking defensive linemen to come in and immediately give you what they just don't really seem to have much of outside of Hendrickson still means this thing that was still such a big problem is just kind of hanging out there right now. And that's worrisome in my mind.
Especially because the options were there. I mean, we talked about Deshaun Wharton. We talked about Levi Onwuzurike. Poona Ford, he's a nose tackle a lot like Slayton is, but Ford offers you significantly more against the pass than Slayton does. Just ask Alex Kappa. You had Javon Kinlaw getting a solid deal. You had Grady Jarrett, who offers more as a pass rusher. You saw consistently guys who the Bengals chose to go in a different direction towards, leaving not on purpose, but by design, a flaw in the roster, which is this interior pass rush. And the problem with that to complement that is, again, you don't have DJ Reader up the middle. I can't guarantee you that this will be a great run defense up front, specifically because right now they'll be pretty weak on the edges up front. And like Logan Wilson's a nice player, but I don't think Logan Wilson and Oren Burks, if he ends up as the starter, are dynamic, terrific, standout run defenders. And I don't think they have a slot corner who's a dynamic, terrific, standout run defender. So I don't know who their best run stopper is. I guess it's Slayton, but he's not as much of a playmaker. So it's a defensive line that outside of Trey Hendrickson doesn't really have a strength. And it's kind of more hoping that run defense becomes its identity.
That's kind of depressing, Charlie.
Go ahead.
No, I was just kind of bummed that, he laid it out like that, because I was trying to be optimistic about all these signings. Like, all right, yeah, the run defense is better. And it's like, oh, yeah, the pass rush is not where it needs to be. And this is a bummer. And that, yeah, they do need that slot corner that can make plays. You're bumming me out, Charlie. I wanted to be a little bit more optimistic with all of these signings.
It's still time.
Get to average. That's all this offseason is.
Where are we right now in terms of like how much cap room is left? I mean, I know there's still some more moves that can happen with Moss or Jermaine Pratt or whatever happens there, but there's still a good chunk of money out there. So I'm imagining that we're still going to make some good moves here.
And you get more if they get T done.
Yeah, I think around 17 or so. But there's still moves they can make. I mean, you still have the Jermaine Pratt money that you can get out of it. Whatever's going to happen with Hendrickson potentially could be more money, but that's kind of a, you have to fill that then. But yeah, there's still money to be used for them if they want to go out there and make moves, and they have needs. I mean, you mentioned it, Jay. The guard thing is certainly hanging out there right now.
Yeah, this whole defense that Charlie was talking about, it's kind of the Jermaine Pratt version of, why do you need a pass rush when they're just running quick game? It's just quick game. I mean, what are you going to do? What good does it do to have pass rushers if they're just going to run quick game and get 450 yards on you?
Yeah. Well, hopefully Pratt's not here, I think is what they're saying, and they won't have to worry about the quick game getting him anymore. I want to kind of touch on Samaje Perine real quick, and I know we can get more into the defense here, but I just kind of wanted to touch on the return of Samaje, who, when he first left here in 23, the Bengals desperately wanted to keep him and weren't able to do it. And then he was in Denver, and then the whole year was like, oh, when's he going to leave Denver? Can they get him back then? And then he does get cut, and then he ends up going to Kansas City instead of coming back here, and he goes to Kansas City, and Bengals fans have to watch him make critical plays in the playoffs. And then they finally get him back. They finally get Samaje Perine back. And a lot of people were sort of asking, I think, when this happened, what's this mean? What role? I think he's going to be in it feels like a pretty similar role, but maybe slightly diminished from what he was before, because they do have a decent amount of faith in Chase Brown. They did see a lot of success with Chase Brown in the passing game when he was in there. So I don't necessarily think that you're going to see Samaje owning third downs in 2 minutes like he did when Joe Mixon was here, because I think there's a little bit more faith in what Chase Brown brings you in those situations. But I think that's kind of, that's where he's going to be. I mean, they wanted this big body back. He's that. He also gives you the confidence. When you show up with an immediate trust in Burrow, that helps you, specifically when we're talking about pass pro. So I think that's probably the role we're going to see with Samaje, is sort of like what he was minus a little in my mind.
Yeah, and I think another thing where he really excelled and where they hope they can use him a lot this year is in that 4-minute offense. If they can play with leads and they're not trying to fight and claw and get their way back into games, if they can build a 1 or 2 score game, I just remember some of the end of those games in 2021, 2022, where he just everybody in the stadium knew he was getting the ball, and he was still running for first downs and churning that clock. And that's important to take that way. It's important to get first downs and burn the clock, but it's also important to kind of take some of that wear and tear off of a guy with a slider build like Chase Brown. And so I think it is less about the third down, and it's more about those situations where you can get a lead and then you can just kind of lean into Samaje to wear down the defense a little bit and chew that clock.
I think we'll see somewhat less Samaje than we did, because in 2022 down the stretch, frankly, the confidence in Mixon specifically in the passing game was dwindling, and even the confidence in Mixon as a closer was dwindling, and the confidence in Chase Brown just continues to ascend and improve. You mentioned the pass catching stuff, even the pass protection stuff he was starting to figure out, but the best way to compliment him, because it is unsustainable to play him as many snaps as they did. They were basically doing the equivalent of a pitcher throwing 130 pitches a game. The perfect compliment is a strong pass protector. You trust even better. He already knows this scheme. A no-brainer home run move for the number 2 running back role, who you'll then draft behind in the draft.
Jay, I thought you were going to say that what you remembered was him getting stuffed on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 in the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. Well, there was that, but that wasn't on him as much as it was the O-line.
It was Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald had a little bit to do with that too. You just run it. Just run your backup running back right at Aaron Donald. I see no way this fails.
2 plays in a row.
Sorry, Bengals fans. I know you're already a little on edge tonight, and I'm out here like bringing up Super Bowl failure. I apologize.
Of all the people to bring that up, it's the guy that said T. Higgins would be signed today. So haven't you done enough with your?
Can we address this?
Today's not over.
How did that happen? For those of you that watched this show last night,
reading comprehension.
I don't understand, or just listening.
Listening comprehension.
I mean, we were talking about the growler bet that we did, which was, okay, predict what day you think T. Higgins is going to be signed. People have sent in submissions to the growlerpodcast@gmail.com, as one does. You can send us questions. You can submit growler bets there, and they submit the answers. We were saying what our answers were to try to predict it were those days. It's no real different than what we've kind of been saying of expectations of when it was get done. This was not new news. There was nothing about what we were saying. It was, I wake up today and I'm like, it says I said a thing. I'm like, what did I say? I definitely.
And you buried it in minute 50 of the podcast.
Hey, and I appreciate any real ones that want to pull out what they believe to be news from minute 50. Like, I'm here. I feel you, and thank you for sticking around. We love the people that stick around to the end. But touch surprised when I woke up to that this morning. I was like, I didn't think I made.
Yeah,
news.
I thought there was much bigger news that we broke last night, like Charlie going down the water slide. That was a much bigger moment in my mind than your T. Higgins prediction.
I got some text about the water slide story.
Well, sure, as you should.
Moving along.
What should we still? Jay, are you going to come off your T. Higgins prediction, or you still feel good about Wednesday?
And I guess I need to reiterate it is not a report. It is a prediction. I'm sticking with Wednesday.
Yeah, well, I mean, my only hope, I guess, for me to win, it's gotta slip in before Tuesday night, I guess, is my only, or is it tomorrow at noon? What would be the middle point between me saying today and you saying Wednesday? It's got to be like noon tomorrow is my only hope. I don't like it. I said it when I first laid my prediction out. I said, I actually wish that I had yours, because you get it for the rest of the offseason. All I had was a little 2-day window.
You know what, though? The Bengals reached a milestone today. Last year, on 2 hours before legal tampering officially started at 10 a.m., Higgins requested a trade on this Monday, and T didn't request a trade this year. So it's going better for the Bengals.
Yeah, it's an improvement. It's an improvement. We were talking Samaje Perine and now T. Higgins, an offensive side of the ball. We talked with Mike Gesicki today. After much delay, we were supposed to talk to him at like 11. We didn't end up talking to him like 12:30. Everybody's wondering what the hell's going on, and I'm sure there was lots going on. But he came down, and we were chatting with him, and I asked him just about what it was like watching Joe Burrow mention him during his little Super Bowl press tour, and his name showing up kind of for the first time about, Mike G, right? And his answer was great. And it included this meme So here we go.
What was it like when Joe was talking at the Super Bowl and your name shows up in the list?
Yeah.
Were you expecting that? Did you talk to Joe before that? What did you think when you heard it?
Did not talk to Joe before that. I am like that picture on Twitter. You see the dude like pointing at himself on the couch. Like that was me literally on my couch. I was sitting there with my wife and I was like, I literally looked. I was like, Hallie, like I think Mike G. I think he's talking about me. Like, so when he said that, it was awesome just because like it shows that the chemistry that we were able to build on the field and the plays that we made on the field and the chemistry off the field, like it all translated to that. And so it was a really cool moment. We definitely got some good laughs out of it. But I do, I mean, I'm going to work my tail off every single day for the Cincinnati Bengals, but for Joe Burrow, because I mean he did so much for my career last year, just giving me the opportunity and believing in me and trusting in me that, hey, all right, yeah, Mike's going to win. Like I'm going to throw him the ball here when you got Jamar and T who are attracting attention. But then off the field, doing things like that in the media, just mentioning my name and things like that. So it was awesome.
How much do you think?
So that's Mike Gesicki today. I love that from him. He's already kind of just out to kind of do a little comedy act almost anytime you talk to him. Like he's always in to make sure he gets his jokes in. Mark, like, I think he
appreciate that. Yeah,
you should get him down to the joke gym, Mark. I feel like he'd be great to have down there. You and Josh could help him work through his act.
Yeah, maybe he can do some stand up. I'll take a few snaps at tight end. We'll see how we do, and I think he might get the better of that. I feel like.
But yeah, it was good. It was funny to hear him talk about his view of that, and just the realization of, look, yeah, I think I kind of owe a lot of this deal to Joe Burrow. Like this was Joe going out and doing that and kind of voicing his approval and pushing for Mike is probably the reason he's here. For both on and off the field and what they were able to do. And so you heard that appreciation in his voice. That goes a long way, man. It goes a long way. And there's no larger monetary unit in Cincinnati than Joe Burrow Trust Nuggets, man. If you got a couple of those in your pocket, you're not going anywhere.
And at the end of the day, go ahead, Jay.
Well, I was gonna say I was a little surprised when he dropped Mike G in those. Like I knew how important Gesicki was, but everything was about Trey and T and Jamar, and he dropped him. And we have seen this before. Joe Burrow gets tight ends paid, but he always gets them paid elsewhere. You're right, Paul. I think him stumping for him was a big reason. I mean, he signed here last year, 1 year, $2.5 million. Now he's got 3 years, $25.5 million. I think, yes, they saw his value on the field, but I think Burrow's endorsement went a long way in the amount of that deal and the length of that deal.
Yeah, Mike Gesicki, good, solid player. We talked about that a lot yesterday too. Another thing kind of adding on today, a theme of the day was winners. And I know Mike hasn't gone on a deep playoff run, but Mike's a guy who I think you saw it down the stretch last season. You saw it against the Chiefs. You saw it against these great teams the Bengals played. Mike shows up in those moments, and he's consistent, he's reliable, he's dependable, and he's playmaking. Oren Burks, a winner. Slayton has gone on deep playoff runs. Bring back B.J. Hill and Joseph Osai have played, deep into postseasons with Cincinnati. The Bengals, again, like they did in 2021, kind of a repeat or a redux of their strategy that offseason, with probably maybe one or two more winners they'd have to add to fully put that into place. The Bengals keep putting that priority on a team that hasn't done much in a bit. Obviously, it's a bit different now, but supplementing that core with guys who have won big games.
Throw Perine in there too.
Perine, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, to me, I can't get past the fact that it felt like every single move today was a reaction, a knee-jerk reaction to Sheldon Rankins last year. I need to know who this guy is. Okay. I don't want to be surprised. And Jermaine Burton, right? Like I want to be comfortable in the people that we're bringing in this building, in particularly in important positions, not bringing in somebody that we don't know very well. okay, because they just are fresh off this year where that backfired on offense and on defense for them. And that can happen in the draft. But when you have a little bit more control over it, I mean, everyone comes with a personality that someone has vouched for, whether they were here, returning, or somebody they knew. I mean, TJ Slayton is really the only outsider here, and he was Jerry Montgomery, the Bengals defensive line coach, was his defensive line coach in Green Bay. He knows him well. And so you have him with that connection. Obviously, you know, Perine, you bring back Hill and Gesicki is back, and you bring back Osai, and I guess maybe Burks they don't really know about. I'm sure there's probably some connection there, but you're just talking about, you know, probably backup, maybe reserve linebackers. I mean, so much of what they were doing was just going and finding the connections and making sure they were comfortable with the people that they were bringing in and actually knew who they were after, you know, kind of getting burnt on that a little bit last year. And I don't want to throw Geno Stone into that mix because we never really personality wise heard that about Geno Stone, but there was some of that with him too. They had to learn him and learn who he was and on the fly last year because they didn't really have that connection to him, and it played a role in things that went sideways last year. So I felt like that was a notable theme today when I thought, you know, for when we just heard the excuse of maybe I held on to some of the players from the Super Bowl year and that time too long. Maybe we held on to guys too long. Sure is a lot of holding on to guys going on here because there's bringing back a lot of guys. You know, you're bringing back your defensive line. I mean, you're bringing back a lot of these same guys, BJ Hill, Joseph Osai. It didn't feel like the blow up that I think we thought maybe it would be.
You know what I just heard you say?
Everyone's at once.
Yeah, what I just heard you say is they're going to sign Kevin Zeitler tomorrow because they need a guard and they know Kevin Zeitler.
That's it. Calling Kevin Zeitler out. I mean, there's got to be bring back Bobby Hart. We're going to get a Bobby Hart drop every night on Dey Nights. That's what we're going to do. We're here for all the Bobby Hart love. Bring him back. That's what you do. They still need they need that backup tackle. They need that swing tackle. Get that Bobby Hart juice in here. Okay. No, it'll be it's going to be Jedrick Wills, like I was telling you.
Yeah.
It's going to be he's going to have the Scott Peters connection. They're going to bring him in to be the backup swing tackle and see what they can do with him, and because Peters knows him, and that'll be your connection there. It's very it feels very notable today. That may be blown out of proportion and coincidental, but it feels notable today.
And it's all very.
You were talking about Sheldon Rankins. Were you? Yeah, my bad. Were you guys surprised that he got a new deal, Sheldon Rankins, for what did he get, $7 million today?
How about that? Good for Sheldon Rankins.
And he got one with a team that knows him. I thought he would have gone somewhere new again. And I mean, he has been kind of traveled.
They like Sheldon down there. Yeah, I mean, good for him. Good for him, man. If you can, you know, for a guy that felt like he was trying to retire, get $7 million, it's like, all right, that's good too. Good for you. What else we got here, boys? Have we've checked a lot of boxes. We got some TJ Slayton plays if you want to pull those out. Who wants to get some TJ Slayton run defense injected into their veins tonight? You interested, Charlie?
The goal
break down some Slayton for me. We'll drop them in here. This is 3 plays from the playoff game.
The Bengals' goal is we talk about Slayton today, and then we don't talk about him for the rest of his Bengals career because they're not getting stomped on the ground anymore. But you look at high leverage moments, playoffs, physical line, known for run blocking and physicality. We got the snap here at Slayton, absorbing the double team, shaking the one-on-one guy, and making a play in the backfield. There was a lot of holding up at the point of attack on the anchor. That was a one-on-one. I'm sorry, not a double team. But he does a very good job of establishing the line of scrimmage, of shaking when he's one-on-one, of anchoring when he's facing a double team, which is something the Bengals had nothing of last season with how bad, frankly, BJ Hill and how bad Chris Jenkins were on double teams. And then he's got a little oomph and a little finish at the end too. And, you know, you'll see that on the next play after this one. Here we go. You got the Eagles set to run the ball. The Packers defense really did pretty solid against the Philadelphia team that was rolling all systems going to the Super Bowl. Got a little motion, got the snap. He pushes the guy all the way into the backfield. He gets that play. He stays with it. He hustles and he finishes. No one on the Bengals defense could have done something like that last year. And then here's the fun one. You got a little after the whistle enthusiasm from TJ Slayton here.
I don't know that Zach Taylor views this and thinks that it's very fun. This is a playoff game, and they're down 9 with 5 minutes left. And what they're trying to do is get this one stop to maybe keep it close. And it looks like they're going to get it until he just throws the dude down to the ground and gets a penalty. The timing's not great. Good energy. Love the enthusiasm, but maybe not great timing on a personal foul.
You know what?
Audio
I
would
don't
help
like.
there. I wonder when the whistle came in, but it was clearly late. Everybody else had stopped.
It's so that angle's much worse than the
yes,
first.
it is. I spoke too soon.
Yeah.
I don't like the penalty, but it is very 2022-ish of the Bengals defense in a good way.
Sure. Yeah.
But don't-
as long
don't
as that doesn't
commit the
happen
penalty.
to cost you a playoff game, then that's fine too. But I approve of the Slayton signing. By the way, I feel like we came off. I think there's a general wondering about the pass rush stuff that we talked about earlier. But I think in terms of I hesitate to even use DJ or Reader, much less them together, because I'm not trying to compare these two signings, but similar thing at that point in their career where you're hoping to just get that type of player that maybe can grow into more, but definitely gives you one thing that you really need right now. He's DJ Reader without any pass rush, essentially, and that's okay for right now because they're just piecing it together in this moment anyway. And you find a guy at a decent deal that can maybe be growing into more here. All right, we're doing these every night. We did one last night as well, and it was a bunch of fun. And we talked about last night about how we brought up the Baywatch Nights. I don't know if Charlie's too young for Baywatch Nights, but it was David Hasselhoff and Lou Rawls and Angie Harmon for the uninitiated, for me and Mark and Jay's demo. And we said, if someone wants to recreate the Baywatch Nights poster that we showed last night, we're here for it. To give us the Who Dey Light feel, or the Who Dey Night feel. And someone did. And so, Mark, do you have the name of who that was? I want to make sure they get a shout out of who.
I'll find it on our.
Yeah. See if you can find it. But this is what they came up with. And I just gotta say, congratulations to you. Thank you for doing this, because this is really concerning, really, on so many levels. Charlie, it looks that's a really good blend, like that really good blend of face to chest and pearls there.
It's a nice necklace.
You're looking good, Jay. I think we're all looking good.
I always wear low cuts
I think
really
this is
well.
Excellent work. I really appreciate the effort. If anybody thinks they can top it, we support that. So feel free to send us your submissions.
Just go into a different direction. If there's a different show or movie that strikes your creative tendency more, then go ahead and put that one together. But that was Cap and Andrew that put that one together. So shout out to Andrew on that.
Shout out to Andrew for that. We appreciate it. And that's going to give me nightmares. It's going to absolutely give me nightmares, but I appreciate it though. All right. Any other thoughts? Mark, are you feeling better tonight now after this than you were last night? Because
I'm feeling a little bit better, because I feel like some of the big moves that were going to happen, I feel like those are still, very possible. It's looking more and more like you got some money. I think they get the T thing done. The Jamar stuff will happen eventually. The Trey Hendrickson part of it is something that's a little bit more confusing to me, because I really thought that when this news broke, I thought Trey was a goner. I thought they would find a trade. I thought that would happen by now. The fact that it hasn't, I don't know what sense to make of that, other than assuming that he's either going to be playing out his last year or some other deal will get reached, because I can't imagine this defensive line without his pass rush. So I'm trying to be optimistic and, see what tomorrow brings.
How
That's
about a
great
quick run,
point.
pass, or boot? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead,
let's go. What do you got? RPB. All right. I like that.
What's greater? Oren Burks starts in 2025, Joseph Osai sacks, or Mike Gesicki touchdowns?
Oh,
that's a good one.
That is a good one. I'll Oof. I'll boot Oren Burks starts. I don't think he becomes the starter. He might play. He might start some games though. Although I don't know. Charlie, I'm still counting on Joe Bocci to come back and get in the mix.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
let's
are
be
they.
honest. We know
We're
we
sleeping
know
on Zhang Meta.
Al is a Joe Bocci guy. Al Golden is a Joe Bocci guy. If there's anything we know about Al Golden,
The Joe
what it
Bocci
is.
guy.
Yeah, nobody's bigger. Nobody's bigger. So I'm expecting Joe Bocci back, and I think he might end up. Who knows? Maybe Bocci just ends up the starter next to Logan at some point. I'm not going Oren Burks starts. I don't think it. That's a tough one between those size sacks. I'll go Gesicki touchdowns. I think they got him figured out, and I think he's going to have a big year. I'll do that. You disagree?
No, I'm with you there. I do think because of T and Jamar, Chase Brown even catching passes, maybe Yoshi Voss takes a step up. I might lean toward Osai sacks with 5 in the last 7 games. If that light has really gone on for him, he's learned how to finish. He's going to get more snap counts. I looked it up. He had at least 48 snaps in the final 4 games last year. He only had 1 game in his career with more than 40 before that, and that was in the 22 season finale. So he's going to get more time, more chances. If they've got the lead, he's going to be able to pin his ears back, like what Duke was saying, where they didn't do a good job with that in the past. And so I do think that maybe I would run with Osai sacks and pass on the Gesicki touchdowns.
I'm going to make a hot take here, or going to have a hot take here. I'm going to go with Oren Burks starts. Oren Burks is the third. I know. Oren Burks is the third linebacker. It's notable that Chris Board, who's a true special teamer, got more money than Burks. But Burks profiles as an early down run stopper. Most likely, they would want something to complement that room as they round out the linebacker room. And, I thought that would be Dre Greenlaw, but the linebackers who you could really want or who even have experience being on the field and coverage on third downs. Right now, that's Kaiser White, who's fine. That's basically it as I'm going through my list. So now you're probably drafting that guy. And I think that guy might end up playing more snaps. But when you look at how Logan Wilson was phased in as a rookie, when you look at how Jermaine Pratt was phased in as a rookie, true, a different coordinator there, but Golden was a part of it with Logan. I could see that rookie being phased in and then maybe making like a Jordan Battle supplanting of Warren Burks, or probably Warren Burks just starts the game anyway because they start out in 3 linebacker sets when they go in 12 personnel on the other side. So I don't expect any of these numbers to be crazy high. I'm not high on Warren Burks, but right now I'm going to have Warren Burks around like 7 starts, Gesicki at like 5 touchdowns, Osai at like 4 or 5 sacks. I'll have Osai third.
I think that makes the most sense to boot Osai because I have been told by a member of this podcast that Miles Murphy is going to put up insane sacks.
Do we have? Does it have to be every time we're on a show
every
together?
Night.
Does it have
every
to be
time.
every? Look,
I'm
not
psyched,
letting it
man.
go.
So
Look, it may be the year 2031, and he has a 5 sack season, and I'm going to find you and track you down and let you know I was right. I saw the potential in Miles Murphy. I believe it. I'm still bullish. I want to go back to, edge rusher, actually, into the Trey Hendrickson thing. And I'll ask you guys, I have my thoughts on it. To me, everything we talked about today, about the lack of pass rush, and you alluded to this too, Mark. I mean, that theme and the fact that we've seen all of these edge rushers come flying off the board today, there's really not much left out there. Certainly nothing that would make you be like, oh, everything's going to be okay. Man, it feels like you now revert to Trey Hendrickson back. You can't let him go, right? I mean, it's like what is your option to fill in? Even you'd have to be getting, you're not going to be getting the pick compensation that you want. You're not getting a 1. It's not going to happen. And even if you did, you don't know if that guy can come in and give you what you need already from what's out there. You're not going to fight. It feels like they're going to have to come back to the table with Trey's people and figure out what this thing looks like, right? I mean, it feels like a restart because I think they expected there to be either Trey seeing some numbers that he thought he was going to see and didn't, or some trade compensation that he thought or the Bengals thought they were going to see and didn't. It feels like they're going to have to come back to the table here.
Yeah, I mean, you got the Myles Garrett and the Max Crosby deals too that just – I'm sure inflate Trey's value in his own camp's mind, but clearly what was it, Friday that he was given permission to seek a trade, and there's Nothing has come of that yet. So, like you said, either it's the compensation that's an issue, or people are not looking to trade and extend for anywhere close to that what Trey wants. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't. He's got to make more than what he is right now. I mean, if they just played hardball and said, "You're playing this year on this deal," what happens? Does he sit out the year? Does he walk away, or does he bite the bullet and play?
Or do they find a compromise of like, fine, if it'll make you play, do they just throw a little bit more money on this year alone? Yeah. You know, like here's $5 million. It's something. Yeah. Well, I mean, exactly. Like, you know, what are you gonna do to make it so he doesn't want to sit out, or whatever, or do you just call his bluff because this happens every single year with Trey Hendrickson? I don't know, but it does feel like the conversation has to have changed after what has happened over the last couple of days, because if there were people willing to pay and give up compensation for what both sides wanted it to be, this thing would have happened. And the fact that it hasn't, you know, that's the good part of this, of going out and testing your market, is all the chips are on the table. Like, you know what your market is, you know what the compensation would be. So it should be easier and have more of a Duke Tobin's favorite framework there to work off of, to know what it's supposed to look like. And so perhaps this brings them back to the table to try to mend defenses.
The market often tells the story, and it feels like the one position where prices were lower than I expected were defensive end. I mean, Sweat was the best edge out there, and he just got 4 for $76. And the Bengals weren't going to go there. But, you know, I look at deals like Deo Dengbo signing 3 for $48, or Chase Young just signed 3 for $51, or Kuntz got 1 for $12 a per year. And I look at a lot of those deals, and those look pretty reasonable to me. Maybe that's a reflection of kind of the next tier of pass rusher, which would include Hendrickson behind a Garrett and a Crosby. Maybe all of that is lower than Hendrickson expected entering this spot, because you look at what those other edge contracts signed for. Again, you also look at how manageable those edge contracts were, and whether or not that was a water the Bengals could have played more aggressively in. And then, though, too, with Young now off the board, really Joey Bosa's the only true, like, guy you could not replace Trey, but put in Trey's spot and feel like you have a solid starter at defensive end. And Joey Bosa, of course, you know, he's really declined. He's not the player he used to be. And I see the look on your face, Paul. Like, I know how that's telling it all right there, but that's what this edge market is right now. Yeah. Because with Young off the board, with Odengbo off the board, with Malcolm Kuntz off the board, like, Bosa's your only other true starting defensive end. And if you're replacing Trey Hendrickson with Joey Bosa, I'm feeling terrible about this pass rush entering 2024. So specifically now that the Young deal just happened, it's kind of, if you want a starting defensive end, it's Trey Hendrickson, who you already have in your building, or you're taking a massive risk when you're already taking a massive risk for your defensive tackle room, which has no pass rush either.
I don't know about you, but I really would have been interested in Malcolm Kuntz for $1 million more than what he signed for 1 year instead of Osai. Like, I mean, he feels like he could really pay off in a big way, and maybe it's more risky. Maybe Osai's the safer play there. You know him. You know, he's kind of the hardworking guy who can give you a little bit on the edge. But, like, man, Kuntz could be like a real dude this year, if he is healthy and looks like the guy he was in 2023. And when I saw that 1 year prove it for 12, I'm like, man, you couldn't have come in and topped that and put him on the other side. But again, I think it shows that they have some belief in the people that are here, between Hendrickson still and Murphy and Osai and whatever they're going to go to next. But I couldn't help seeing that deal today and thinking, like, oh, that's the one I was kind of eyeing the whole time. And that came down to a really reasonable number in my mind for what he could be this year. But so it goes in free agency, right?
The flip side of that is guard. I think guards are going for way more than what I expected.
That seems to happen. That's 2 years in a row now.
Yeah.
Where the guards have been getting big money, you know, and Callie's down here paying more $20 million to play tackle. I don't offensive linemen, man, there's just not enough of them. And if you don't have one, There's nothing worse. And you know who knows that? Brian
Callie.
Callahan, right? He knows what it's like to not have one. And so he's looking for serviceability over here. Pay what you got to pay sometimes. And so,
One more thing.
All right, tomorrow. Yeah, go.
One more thing. I mean, the way today's played out, the draft's even more important than it was entering today. Because what the Bengals did today at edge, at defensive tackle, and a linebacker just puts more on them needing to find impact contributors right away in the draft.
Yep, we're back to the 3rd round linebacker. It feels like they go back to that this year.
Oren Burks is a 3rd round linebacker. Did you know that? Felt right. I knew something felt right about that guy. All right. So we will, again, we will be doing these every night. We'll be back tomorrow night through Thursday evening. We'll be doing these at 9:00 every night. So make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you get notifications when we go live on the YouTube channel each evening. Make sure you're following there. If you have questions that you want us to get to any of these nights, send them to the Growler Podcast at gmail.com. And we'll try to throw some of those in as we get going too, as you have more questions. And thanks to everybody that's been here on YouTube in the comments section and throwing in your questions. And those of you that aren't saying mean things, we appreciate it. Everyone that's saying nice things, that's we try to have some decorum here. And it's good. It's good to see that happening a little bit.
We got to work in the chat a little bit more tomorrow. We'll take a few more questions tomorrow from the people that are here live with us. There's a little bit bonus for being here live rather than listening the next day or following it just on social media. Yeah. So we'll take a few more cues tomorrow.
As busy as today was, there may be nothing going on tomorrow. They could not. I don't know.
Just when you think nothing's going on, it's still free agency week. So I have a feeling that we'll still have some stuff to talk about. And if not, we'll take your questions. Or maybe we'll just put up more
Photoshop
pictures of Jay and Charlie with pearls and cleavage.
You're welcome, everybody.
You're welcome. All right. Thanks, everybody, for checking in, and we'll talk to you tomorrow night. Have a good one.